So first, thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks to Jamie. I'll do a little intro, Jamie, in a sec here. Also, thanks for anybody watching on the live stream. And we even have some people in the Pittsburgh office who've joined. So we'll, there they are.
We're not happy with you. Exactly. We know you're good people, but we're not happy with you today. Trust me.
So a little gloating going on there, but that's earned, well earned. So I want to thanks everyone again. Thanks, Jamie, for taking time out of obviously a busy schedule at the busy time of year. Jamie, you saw the video, the most famous goal in Shark history. Jamie scored, which was to knock out Detroit in a big game a few years ago. Jamie played 10 years NHL, played for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Ottawa Senators, Quebec Nordiques. He started his career, and then obviously with the Sharks a couple of times. So a great career. Started at the University, I almost said my school, St. Lawrence University, and that's where I first met Jamie.
He's getting nervous right now. There's a reason why.
There's a reason why, yeah. So Jamie and I met playing against each other in university. So I played at Vermont. Jamie played at St. Lawrence. I think the worst defeat my team ever suffered my senior year, my last game, we lost 9-1 in the playoffs. So that's my memory of playing St. Lawrence. So I think I scored the goal.
Didn't go very well for you.
Didn't go very well, but
it's good. I have eternal bragging rights against you from a hockey standpoint.
He does, but
you're doing okay now.
You're okay, but when you're a parent, I think one of the things when you're a parent is you want your children not to make the same mistakes you did. And so I'm delighted that Jamie's daughter is a player going into her senior year at the University of Vermont, so she plays hockey there. So she made the right call anyway, where to go to school. So Jamie had a terrific career, as I said, 10 years, played 25 playoff games. So what we want to do here is we really want to get it into just a kind of Q&A around. I want to talk first about the season, because it's been an amazing season, I think, for the Sharks. And then we'll get into kind of this series in particular. But let's try and do it as much as a dialogue, open it up for questions. I've got a few if we need to kind of kick it off. But I think I really want everyone to have an opportunity to kind of to talk to Jamie about what he's seeing and what's going on so far. So I think, Jamie, the first thing I'd love to just understand is, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, right around now, devastating loss for the Sharks. Going up 3-0 on the Kings and then losing in 7. And then they last year didn't make the playoffs. So you go down to an absolute bottom is last year. You've got the top player having disputes with the general manager, so it's just not going well. And then a year later they have the best results they've ever had. So what do you think took them? What happened to go from that bottom to get where they are now?
Well, first of all, if you go back to when the Sharks missed the playoffs, if you told me then that they'd be here now, I'd be like, that's awesome. I can't wait to see this unfold in front of my eyes, and I'm going to have front row seats, because I would not have predicted it whatsoever. I thought potentially maybe one of them, Thornton or Marlowe, might get traded or something, and that there was a little bit of a rebuild in places. They're trying to bring in new blood. Instead, after not this past season, the season before, it was a toxic environment around the locker room. And, there was some friction between the head coach and the general manager, but just the whole atmosphere, you just knew it wasn't right. I wouldn't talk about it on the air, because you don't know how it's going to, they could fix things in the second half of the year. But when everything was said and done, they didn't have that chemistry as a team. There was no trust throughout at all the layers, and you can't succeed. There's bickering behind the scenes. It goes within any organization. Pro sports is different. There's turnover and whatnot. There's the media profile and all that. Everything is played out publicly. You guys you guys are in different teams here within your company. Well, everything, you're not going to read about it tomorrow. Maybe there's an internal blog, might be something, but that's it maximum. So, and you can ultimately try and get over the grievances. So what happened between then and now? Well, one, people, like key people, general manager, the key players, the top players, some of the leaders, they check their ego at the door. They put their pride aside, and they put the logo first. And at the end of the day, if you can learn from the past, but you can't dwell on the past. If you dwell on the past, you're never going to be able to move forward. And I don't care what vocation you're in. That's what they did. They put the stuff behind them. They say forgive and forget. Just forget about it and move on, because there were still some really good pieces here. And then Doug Wilson, who was under fire, he was the architect of this, and they hadn't succeeded. And he was out. He was getting called out publicly. He went out and got Martin Jones, who's been absolutely phenomenal, the goaltender now of the future, a great trade. He's the one that hired Pete DeBoer, and And he went out and got, I'm going to talk about some other guys, but he and his staff got Jonas Donskoy, who has been, here's a guy that's a top 6 forward that they didn't draft. They're tough to get. You look at Panarin in Chicago, how he came over from Russia, and you're like, Chicago picked up him. Well, I think we got one of the best free agent acquisitions last year from someone coming over from Europe in Donskoy. Great kid, true pro, sticks his nose in there, just loves to battle. Great hands, great upside all across. So those 3 were like home runs. And then Pete DeBoer coming, he was also instrumental. So Doug Wilson makes the final call on bringing in Joel Ward and Paul Martin, but Pete DeBoer also communicated with them. So he was instrumental in those acquisitions. Great acquisitions all aboard, and then the ones they made at the trade deadline. You've got a coach who all the pieces were in place from the fundamentals. The previous coaching regime that was here did a great job. So the foundation and structure was there. So it's like a new leader coming in, a new VP of marketing or sales or biz dev coming in. And you've got the structure of all your group. They work, the cohesion's there, all the back end stuff's in place. And now you just got to tweak a few things here to go and not necessarily knock it out of the park, but like go above and beyond. So that was there. And everybody came in this past year, everybody came in with a new attitude. They actually, I call it, that was a fresh coat of paint. Literally a fresh coat of paint, because they redid the practice facility and the Sharks dressing room at SAP Center with new paint and everything. And so new attitude, dress rooms were new coaching staff. You've got that goaltender, that key piece that you can rely on. And then as the season went on, you could just see it start to unfold. And resiliency and perseverance have been their trademarks, and they are now getting tested more than they've been all year from a resiliency and perseverance. And that might not even be enough. Pittsburgh might be too good. We're going to find out. But Pittsburgh hasn't been to the East Coast or West Coast in a while, and they haven't played at the Shark Tank in the playoffs. And we'll see what happens on Saturday when the Sharks get to play in front of their home crowd and see if they can kind of try and take everybody in Pittsburgh right now. And they should be, and you're thinking 4 or 5 games out, you in Pittsburgh, I know you are, you're all nodding and agreeing, but you don't know what it's like to play in the Shark Tank. I was listening to Aaron Ward this morning. This guy's won 3 Stanley Cups. This was on the NHL Sirius XM channel, and he said, I don't think this thing's over, because he goes, I didn't get nervous or intimidated in many buildings, but the Shark Tank was one that I did. It was a distinct home ice advantage. The crowd is so loud, the way it just bounces off the roof and comes down, and because it's kind of the steep building, the seats don't go out. So we'll see how things play out. If Sharks win on Saturday, we got ourselves a series here, because we already know, as good as Murray's played for Pittsburgh in nets, he has been tested much. We know how good Martin Jones is.
Yeah, it's great. One of the things that surprised me, I guess I haven't seen Pittsburgh play that much, and you hear about it, but it was the speed. I mean, we like to think the Sharks, I think certainly in the first couple of series, the first 3 rounds there, the Sharks, their speed was the talk, how they were dumping in and beating the other team to the puck. And clearly it's flipped the other way. I mean, Pittsburgh just looks like they're at a whole other speed level. And how do the Sharks get adjust to that? And what's been your reaction to that watching it?
Disruptive, it's a good popular word in technology world, disruptive. Speed, first to market, all of that stuff. That's what they are. Their speed is disrupting everything that San Jose is trying to accomplish. Things that they could do, now they're not being able to do it. And I knew their speed was good. What I didn't know was that their details, like their stick position, they're winning more battles right now. They've won more 50-50 battles. That's really surprised me. That was one area I thought we would have the advantage. We out-battled LA, we out-battled St. Louis. I mean, that's as hard as it gets. So I'm like, well, we might give them a little bit here on the speed, but we're going to get more if we can, get some more, push the game to the perimeter outside the dots, and we can get some more board battles. But that hasn't been the case. And sometimes you watch now, I'll give you just some examples of what I've been watching, what I look for. But, there's 2 things. Well, 3 kind of concepts how I watch and teach and talk about the game of hockey. One is time and space. Now, it's a cliche in sports, but it's real. Football's the classic example of time and space, like the line of scrimmage. Like the quarterback comes back, and if he hands it off to a running back, lineman, their job is to create space. That's it. That's what they do. They provide space for the running back to go and get out and get some opening, and then he's got to find more space. That's what they do. If it's a passing play, the linemen have to block to create time for the receivers to go out and find an open space, and for the quarterback to have enough time to be in good position and to make the pass. Time and space, very simple. It's there in basketball, it's soccer, all the team sports, you know. The other two things I watch for are outnumbering and controlling the lanes. So controlling the lanes. So if our net was here, back here, I'd be between you and that net. So you want to control the lanes with your body or your stick position. You're always trying to establish and reestablish body position. If I'm in the offensive zone, I want the guy from their team to be behind me. So I've got an open lane to their net. So controlling the lanes, using your body or your stick. The other one is outnumbering. If we got one guy in the corner and they have two, advantage them. So if you just were watching the game at home on your DVR and you pause it, you can just see and you're like, well, yeah, like Pittsburgh's got 3 guys, the Sharks have 2. That's why they're winning battles. And that's what they're doing. So they're controlling the lanes and outnumbering, using their team speed all over the ice. And it is absolutely frustrating the Sharks, not allowing them to execute. So they're going into some battle situations. They're not going in to win the battle. Their first guy's going in, using a stick position to influence the Sharks one way or the other. You know, push them up the boards or take away a D-to-D pass. But they're getting in on the first guy. They're not necessarily trying to win the battle. They just don't want the Sharks to win the battle. They go in and like, don't lose the battle. And then because they're so fast and they're so disciplined and they've been doing this now, they've been playing this way for so long here, you know, the last month and a half of the season in the playoffs, that the next guy's there. And then he's winning the battle. So the Sharks have some things and that's what the Sharks were doing. Sharks were doing it. They did it to LA, they did it to Nashville, they did it to St. Louis, and now it's happening to them.
So how do you control it if you're the Sharks? How do you get on top of that, right? Yeah.
It's not going to be easy.
Right.
So you got to simplify your game. You're not going to be able to execute. I don't know, I couldn't make a comparison in business. You know, sometimes you go into one scenario and then there's another. And whatever worked here isn't necessarily going to work. And you have to be creative. In this case, they need to simplify. I think they have to just get away a little bit from trying to execute these breakout passes. I think they need to just start chipping the puck out in the neutral zone and creating races there, and then getting the puck deep. Like because there've been too many turnovers, and when there's a turnover, like Pittsburgh's feasting on it. So I think they have to simplify the game, slow the game down a little bit. And then if they spend less time in the defensive zone, you got to slow the speed of Pittsburgh in the neutral zone. And if they get their forecheck going, you know, simplify their game in the defensive neutral zone, get the puck deep, go to work on the forecheck. That's their bread and butter. They're going to get outnumbered down low. If you watch, like again, if you're at the game, watch. Because Pittsburgh's forwards are so fast, they collapse even lower in the defensive. They're going to have all 5 guys down below the dots, guaranteed. So what do you have to do? Kick it back to the defenseman, keep getting shots on net, things like that, like real simple, and then try and frustrate Pittsburgh from that regard, and hopefully draw some penalties too. They've only had 3 power plays so far this series.
Yeah, and that's been one of the impressive things I think about Pittsburgh is, you know, I think Malkin and Letang in particular have a reputation for you get under their skin, and you saw Thornton take a shot at Malkin, you saw them go after Letang a bit, and trying to goad them. I mean, once you get these guys get their tempers, and it's just not working.
That's like you trying to goad me from a hockey standpoint, knowing that I beat you every time we've ever played against each other.
Not every time.
Like you'll never well, you won once.
Yeah, fair enough.
But how can you like you can't frustrate me when it comes to our head-to-head matchups, right?
That's fair enough.
It's like I'll never play them in a senior league game because my record stands for itself moving forward with it. I have bragging rights. Yeah, exactly. I felt so bad for you. My daughter goes to your school.
Exactly.
So Malkin and Letang aren't frustrated. They're in control of the series.
Exactly.
So that's where the Sharks. But that's what you want to see. You want to see them going off banging their stick because they're not having their way. But they have for 5 of the 6 periods.
Yeah, on that, my old coach was saying, you should look up Jamie when you're out in San Jose. When I moved out here, I said I won't specifically for that reason, but I ended up doing it anyway.
And my daughter went there, and we became friends, and here we are.
What have you liked what you've seen from the Sharks in this series so far?
Goaltending.
That's
Next
it?
question.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's it. Honestly, yeah, goaltending. And actually, well, the goaltending is the reason they've stayed in there. Like, I had someone text me this morning. They say, "What? Like, is Pittsburgh really that fast?" And like, if we got one more, like, if we got a couple of breaks, could we be up 2-0? in this series? I'm like, yeah, you're right on both. Like, Pittsburgh's dominated the series first and foremost with their speed and their compete level and their ability to win battles and do all the things that I've already discussed. But yet the Sharks have hung on. Like, if you were out of the country and you just saw the scores, if you just looked at the score sheet, you're like, well, this series, this is as close as it gets. Because, it was a couple of mistakes by the Sharks in game one, and Pittsburgh scored with 2.5 minutes left, and last night they won in overtime. So if there's I don't know if it's a glass is half full or glass is half empty. Right. That's what's the beautiful thing about sports. Like, we're going to find out Saturday. Like Shannon was saying, well, is it good that they've been outplayed? You asked me that when I was driving over. I said, is it good that they've been outplayed, but yet the games are close? I'm like, yeah, it is good. But at the same time, Crosby and Malkin haven't scored yet. So is it good or not good? We're going to find out. I just know, I think it's the 2 days between games, which I didn't like at first when the series came out. Like, I think this for all the travel that these teams are doing, there's 2 days between games whenever they have to go from one coast to the other. It makes sense, but all the other series is every other day. To me, this is an advantage for Pittsburgh, they're not used to the travel. Sharks are used to it. So I didn't like this. I didn't like the schedule. I thought it favored Pittsburgh because they're used. They haven't been out of the Eastern time zone since like mid-January. That's our life, like Nashville, St. Louis. So we're used to it. We're used to the long flights. It's part of the routine for the guys. But now, the way the series is played out, I think the Sharks are fortunate they have 2 days. They were frustrated during the game. They were frustrated in their post-game comments. And I think they're a little shell-shocked, and I think today's a travel day, and tomorrow they can go and meet and watch some video and have a closed-door practice, and then they can start to ramp up for Saturday. So I think the 2 days prior to that Game 7 against Nashville helped San Jose, and I think it's going to help them here in this case.
Great. Let's look for some questions. Anybody got any questions for Jamie?
My question is about the Pittsburgh San Jose and how they kind of got here. I've got a theory, and I just want to get your idea about it, and it kind of ties in with the whole fact that usually President's Trophy winners have this kind of curse of not advancing. I've got a theory that for any championship team, especially in hockey, to make it to the finals, there has to be an extended period of strife or conflict in the regular season, because that's when the team learns who they are and what works and what doesn't. With Washington, I think as soon as they got to Pittsburgh, they hadn't really ever been into a situation where just things weren't working for them, and it's kind of telling that Pittsburgh and San Jose were making it to the final when they were really mediocre teams the first half of the season. So is that a theory that you think has to happen for a championship to occur, or no?
It's a good question, and I've asked coaches over the years that question, and they'll tell you, well, like, we don't go out seeking adversity or strife, if you will. We don't seek it out, but when it's there, you have to turn it into a positive in the long term. Like, it's, when you're going through it, it's not good. And this is in your, it's in your personal lives, it's at work, whatever. If there's conflicts, that's what perseverance is what? It's overcoming adversity, and it takes time. It's like going through different experiences. And that's what resiliency is. So I agree. I think it's beneficial to go through those during the course of the year. Part of the thing is you have to have the horses. Like, you got to have the horses. You got to have the players. Both these teams have the talent. They've got the coaching. They've got all of that. I mean, Pittsburgh went through a coaching change. That's not easy to do, but it turned out to be, a terrific move on their part. So my belief is, and I don't think it's a theory, but my belief is I think it's good to go through that type of adversity. I don't think I listened to Barry Trotz, the head coach of Washington, his post-series media press conference, and he's like, Pittsburgh was the best team coming down. We finished with the most points, but the last month and a half of the season, Pittsburgh was the best team in the NHL, and they carried it through, and they're a better team right now than us. So, when you look at the entire season, because in sports, and it is different, there can be trades or different things, or teams have injuries in that. There's more personnel changes in such a short time than necessarily you see in everyday work situations, that you can't necessarily, like the Sharks' power play, well, you can look at it, or their home record. The Sharks' home record over the course of the season wasn't great. Well, now We're not talking about the regular season home record. We're talking about how they've been in the playoffs.
That's 7-1, right?
Well, there was a reason why they weren't as good in the regular season. One, at the start of the year, they were all still learning Pete DeBoer's new systems. They weren't all on the same page. They had some key injuries with Logan Couture. Paul Martin was out. Vlasic, Braun, they were all out for a few games. The other thing is, the way the schedule is, the Sharks travel so much that you look at their record. I think they were 0-7 or 0-8-1 in any game, whenever they've had a road trip, two games or more. So they were so good on the road, but they almost maxed out on their road trips, especially the 4 and 5 game road trips. They'd play so good in games 4 and 5, but then, and I've talked to Doug Wilson about this a little bit. And when they came back, so let's say they finished the road trip somewhere like say Chicago on a Tuesday. Their next home game was Thursday. So you fly home. I'm with them. You roll into your house, 2, 3 in the morning, but that's 5 o'clock Central Time. So you've been traveling all night. Then you got the next day is a day off, and then you're right back and you have a game. Those are the games they were losing. So when you look at the President's Trophy, you're looking at a 6-month time frame where Washington had the most points. But if you look at the best team coming in, the best 2 teams heading into the playoffs, coming down the stretch, it was the Pittsburgh Penguins and San Jose Sharks. So sometimes I think that's where it's not necessarily a theory. You got to also study trends, and that's the trend right now. Is the Sharks have been really good at home. And I said that people said, well, we want to start on the road. I'm like, no, I don't want to start on the road. They're like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. The regular season doesn't matter anymore. It's the playoffs. I want last change, and if there's a game 7, I want it here. And even in this series, I'm like, people ask me, who do you want when it was game 7, Pittsburgh, Tampa? I said, I want Tampa. It had nothing to do, if they beat Pittsburgh, they're going to be a great matchup. You could say, well, we match up better than them. Do we? They knocked off Pittsburgh, and now we're finding out how good Pittsburgh is. So I don't know if they would have been a better matchup. I just know we'd have home ice, and if the series went 7 games, I want them traveling across the country 3 time zones 3 times, not us. That was it. So it's all about trends, especially at this time of the season.
Megan?
Row 3 asking a lot of questions. Yes. How come it's always row 3 asking questions? I have a theory.
This kind of piggybacks on what you were just saying, talking about how they did so well on the road this season, kind of set a record with that. In your opinion, in your experience, how important is home ice advantage during the regular season and then opposed to the playoffs?
More so in the playoffs. In the regular season, it's there, but every game it's typically, sometimes there's back-to-back games with the same team, but for the most part, every game you're facing a new team. So you study the other team a little bit, but you're more focused on your own play. And there's no sugarcoating it. Like, these guys, 82 games is a long season. It is a marathon. And just from how excited you get. Like, they want to go to the rink, but there's times they're just tired. I see it behind. I'm tired, and I'm just broadcasting the games. So you can only imagine how these guys are. So the adrenaline isn't going some nights. Like, it's hard to get up for some opponents, especially like if a New Jersey,
Columbus on a Tuesday night in January.
Yeah,
exactly.
And it's not disregard to Columbus, but they're not a rival and they're not one of the top teams. It's just the way it is. It's easy to get up for the LAs and the Anaheims and those types of games. That's easy. Montreal, Toronto, they're pretty easy for the guys. It's an original 6 teams. We got a lot of guys that are from those areas, so you get pretty jacked up. They have all their family. When we play Montreal, like the guys that are on our team from Montreal or anywhere near there, or even Eastern Canada, all their families watching, so you get a little more amped up for it. So home ice helps more from a coaching, from a last change standpoint. In the playoffs, I don't know if last change, it helps on face-offs in the offensive zone, but otherwise not as much, because the guys they'll if you watch, and you can't necessarily see it as much on TV, but if you're at a game, you could see there could be a face-off, and within 15 seconds, if Pittsburgh tomorrow on Saturday, if Pittsburgh wins the draw and they want to change their D to get get Letang and his partner out there against Thornton's line, let's say, and they just ice the puck and those guys aren't out there. If they win the face-off and chip it out and it goes into the Shark zone, they'll change those guys right away. So there's a lot more live changes in the playoffs to get the potential matchups you want. I think I think the crowd is a bigger factor. They're just, same thing. It's more exciting. There's more at stake. Crowd's more amped up. Players feed off of it, and they can carry it through.
That's great. Yeah.
You're up next over there. You're row 3. I mean, that's just joking.
Skipping a row, exactly. Yeah.
Hi, Jamie. I wonder if you could talk about the physical and the mental. I heard, let's start with the mental, the announcer last night's game said a few more minutes for a last-minute meditation. What kind of mental thing are they doing? Are they actually doing Zen meditation in there, visualization? What are they doing? And then the second part is, well, that.
Well, the physical is easier to answer, but I'll answer that after. Like Joe Pavelski is a great example. Guys are thinking about it all the time. You're thinking, like, you can't get it out of your mind at this time of the year. So they're thinking about last night's game, what they could have done, different areas and all that. Joe Pavelski, he gets to the rink about an hour and a half before the game. He goes and sits out on the bench. And he has just a visualization checklist that he goes through, starting in the defensive zone, into the neutral zone, offensive zone, and he just goes over all kinds of different sequences and plays, and he does face-off plays. It only takes, it takes 3-4 minutes, and I've talked to him about it and kind of what he so guys do different things from that. Some guys are listening to music, but they're all doing it, but they're also now. The mental part can also, and this is what this series is about, and Pittsburgh has a huge lead in this, and you saw it. Thornton, going after Crosby just whatever, even Logan Couture saying after the game that Crosby's cheating on the faceoffs. Well, I was a center. Like, if you're not cheating, you're not trying when it comes to faceoffs. If you're cheating, if the linesman's if he's not kicking you out, then go cheat more. Like, you got to win the faceoffs. Yeah. So that's frustration. That's mental. So what the Sharks are dealing with now, and what they want to do impose, and Pete DeBoer talked about it, whoever imposes their will get into the heads of the other team. Huge advantage Pittsburgh right now. That's why I think the 2 days is actually now a big advantage for the Sharks. They need it. They need it mentally. They don't need it physically. They need it mentally to get rid of, again, like the fans, the media, people are going to be talking. These guys turn the TV off. Don't watch the NHL Network, even though I'm going to be on it later today, and they don't want to hear what I said. No, I'm just joking. But don't read anything. Don't listen to XM radio. Block things out. Spend some time with your family. Come down a little bit, and then remember what got you here. And they know what the opponent is now. But you can't let them get into your head that you start to lose your confidence or anything. And then you start to force plays. If you start doing that, this thing's over. So the mental part is the last bastion you have to hold on to. And you see it in different teams. That's you try, and this is you have to think of this as a 7-game series. It's like a 15-round heavyweight title bout. It's body shots. Every shift is an investment. And we've seen the Sharks now. We've seen other teams when they were getting frustrated, and we talk about it, we're like, that's good. When I played, and I've coached every amateur level, but I would teach the kids. I'm like, let's watch the other team. And when they're frustrated, I'm like, don't say anything, don't do anything. Just keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, we're in control right now. And that's what's going on. So the Sharks, and it's not going to happen just in one game. It's going to take minimum 2 to start to get into the heads. You got to plant a seed of doubt. Like right now, Pittsburgh's not walking around, the players aren't saying, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. They know there's a lot of work to do, but they're feeling real good. That there's no reason for them to believe right now that they can't win 2 out of the next 5 games. But if the Sharks win Saturday and then they come out and win on Monday, now there's been a seed planted. It doesn't matter what it is, and it starts to grow. And it doesn't happen to be in every guy. It could only be in certain guys. So the mental part is absolutely huge. And that's what the Sharks have to, they have to, one, use the physical prowess, their skills, their execution, all of that. They're going to be fine they take care of their bodies. It's all good. They need that to get into the heads of Pittsburgh mentally. Good question.
Where does hitting come into this? Because it seems like the hits is on the
you're not going to, hitting can wear other teams down and all that, but you're not going to first of all, you're not going to intimidate players at the NHL. If you pass the stages and phases of intimidation coming up. In college, like I intimidated him, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's making me feel better today.
It's Dan.
Right? Like I intimidated him back then, but no, you're not going to intimidate anybody at the NHL level. The physical part is just to finish your checks, wear them down a little bit. Later on, let them know that they're going to get hit. But trust me, if you knock Crosby down with a good hard hit, you know what he let's say he comes over the red line and dumps it in, and gets the puck into our end, and then let's just say Justin Braun steps up and hits him good, and he goes down. You guys are all going to cheer. You're all, yeah. You know what's going to go when Crosby goes to the bench? You know what his guys are going to say? Way to go, Sid. Way to take a hit to make a play. So the physical part, right now, it's more about what I was talking about, controlling the lanes. It's getting in front of them, establishing body position, slowing them down, soft picks away from the play without getting interference penalties. That's going to have more effect long-term in this series than the big hits. I mean, you got to make your hits, but you don't want to chase, you don't want to run out of your way just looking for the big hits, because Pittsburgh, that's not going to work against them.
Have you ever thought or would like to be a head coach in the NHL?
Yes and no. Yes, I've thought about it. No, I don't want to do it.
Why not? Why not?
No, I don't. No interest in coaching at the NHL level. I like broadcasting. I love my job, there'd maybe consider coaching in like the college or something like that, where there's more teaching and you're in more control of the acquisition of players. My first year doing broadcasting on radio, I saw how much video they did, and I'll use Columbus. It was like a Tuesday game in Columbus in mid-January, and it was like we lost, and it was just a boring game. And we'd be on, and at the time Ron Wilson and who else, Tim Hunter, Rob Zettler, they were all watching the game again. I'm like, oh my gosh, they got to watch that again. I can't do this. I couldn't do it. They do so much video. It's for a certain mindset of guy. So I love coaching. I don't have an interest. You're gone all the time, and you're in front of it's too much video that I would want to sit in front of the screens that much to watch it. So I love what I do. I've done a lot of coaching at the amateur level. I'm proud to say, like, I spent a lot of time when my daughter was there, but I coached every amateur level. So like Might Squirt all the way through. I actually coached ASU club. I've coached AAA, AA, A, boys and girls. And I did it because I was passionate about it. I was giving back. But I also, as a student of the game, I had some people, and even when my daughter was young, well, just because you played in the NHL doesn't mean you know how to teach. I'm like, you're right. But you know what? If I learn how to teach, then I guess I got you, don't I? And no, because they did. They pissed me off. They really pissed me off because he wasn't doing things right. He wasn't listening to me. I'm like, you're not teaching it right. I'm telling my daughter, don't listen to what he's saying. And his answer was, just because you played doesn't mean you know how to teach. So I went and started learning how to teach. That's why I became a teacher. And so even at youth sports, they call it a coach. I don't think it's a coach. I think you're called a teacher. You're really there to teach. And I hung out with a guy who taught. He allowed, like, my daughter got into, we were living in Arizona, but she got to go to all his power skating clinics whenever they were for free, which was great. And then I would go out on the ice and help. But I would basically just, every now and then I'd chime in and take something he was teaching and relate it to how it would, help you in a game situation. So, it was an add-on for him, and my daughter was there, and she hated it at the time. She's like, I don't want to go. We're always doing the same thing. I know. That's why you're gone. Repetition. She's got a college scholarship right now, so it worked out. So I spent my time
to a top school. Really.
Yeah, great school. Great town, great school, fantastic alumni. We got the warm fuzzies are
exactly.
happening. I think some of all that teaching. So, and I was a coach. But part of it, and Dan Rusanowski knows this, and because I said it to him at one point, I said, I want to spend more time coaching at the youth level than any other broadcaster. It was actually a goal. And the reason is you can go look up stats and do all this, or you can have your contacts that you can call and all that. But if I can teach the game, it can also parlay in my analysis. And hopefully that can come across in some of the broadcasts. Sometimes I'll catch something that comes from all the time I put in at the youth sport level that potentially other broadcasters may not have. Maybe during the seasons or in the summers, I was doing camps and clinics and they were golfing. So it's helped me in my broadcasting career, which I love doing.
Yeah, and all kidding aside, I think one of the things that I'm most impressed with when I watch the Sharks since I've been out here, in the 8 years I've been out here, is how detailed and analytical Jamie is compared to a lot of the color guys.
It was going to happen. Give me a hug here.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, I'll never bring up the Vermont stuff again in front of your staff.
I'm trying whatever I can.
In front of anyone that works with you or in any capacity, I'll never bring up the records again.
But it is true.
A man hug is always good.
Right? I think it is true. You see you're actually talking about the analysis. A lot of color commentators are just talking about the player or talking about something that's just general. But there's a lot of stuff that you're watching. I'm learning, which is really cool to kind of watch it and see it at that level. So it's real fun.
So can you give us a little insight into what the system is that the new coach has and how it differs from other systems?
Pete DeBoer's?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, he inherited good details and habits. So, like stick position, body position, communication, all of this stuff. Okay, that the previous coaches have done, and the commitment level of the players. And his whole thing is to contest every puck, be pressure oriented, to do what Pittsburgh's doing to us. Don't let the other team set up. Get on them so they're not in a position. Their D don't have time to go back, get a puck, turn, and face the play. If a defenseman can come back, turn, and face the play, he's going to be able to make a pass, off you go, then you're back on your heels. You want to get to him before he can do it. Pressure, pressure, pressure. And that's where the Sharks right now, they're getting a lesson in what they do to other teams. So it takes about, at the NHL level, 2 to 3 months. Even Joe Thornton talked about it. He says it took him a couple of months to get used to all the different pressure points, and because you're skating more, your shifts are going to be a little shorter. It's very reactionary, very anticipatory. You go right away. So it's great for a guy like Burns. There's no thinking involved. It's go. Take away time first, not space. So the previous coaching staff, they would come up, and I'll get up, they would sometimes come in and influence you, try and get you to go to the corner. In this case, boom, just get on the guy right away. Don't give him any time. And don't worry about forcing him to his backhand. Get on him so he can't make a pass either way. And we're seeing that's the system more or less. I mean, there's some things a few things they did in the neutral zone. It's called stay above. They've got one of their forwards, the F1, whoever the first forward back, closer to the D. He picks up the opposing team's player that's cutting across the ice, and he'll be 3 feet on the other side of him. So if the pass comes, we're right on him. And then one D takes away the stretch play, the other D kind of comes up and kind of moves in with him. It's all, so it's, when you watch it, it's moving, the game of hockey's moving so fast, but it takes a few months for everybody. If it takes Joe Thornton 2 months, then it's going to take younger, inexperienced guys that don't have the same amount of hockey IQ. It's going to take them at least 3 months. And that's when you really started to see the team really started to click. I thought mid-December is when they started to kind of really took off in mid-January.
I think, on that point, I think the guy who seems to have had the most drastic turnaround in his style of play as a result of DeBoer's style is Patrick Marleau. I think, he's playing on top of the guys. He's playing a lot more aggressive. He's hitting. He's just doing things in this playoffs that he hasn't done before. In terms of the style of play is completely different. I mean, Joe Thornton's playing at that level that we always see him play at. But Marleau's just a different player compared to what he's been in the rest of his career, which is pretty amazing to see.
Well, you don't want to be the one spoke in the wheel that's not fulfilling your obligation from contesting and being aggressive. And it's very noticeable on film. It's not necessarily as noticeable, every game, especially if you're watching it on TV, you don't see everything. But when these coaches, they're seeing stuff live and breaking it down. But for Marleau, this is just go. I mean, with your speed, it just plays right into his best asset is his quickness and his speed.
Absolutely.
I want to go back to the second round against Nashville. The black cat that was let out on the rink. Was it someone's idea, or did it happen by accident?
Yeah, it would be great if somebody planned it, but I don't think so. But it is a little weird that the cat was on the bench, right? Like, how did the cat and then come out on the ice and warm up? But no, it was totally accidental. I guess the cat had been in the arena for a few days, and they knew about it but couldn't catch it. And then after that, it caught on. So, yeah.
It was interesting how the social media team picked it up and.
Yeah, and then well, that's our world. Social media picked it up and ran with it, right? There's something to go with, and yeah, interesting. So, and I guess went to the Humane Society and is now happy in a home.
Happy in a home, exactly.
Pavelski.
Question here, I don't know if we can get the Pittsburgh people. Can we hear them if they have questions, or we want to give them an opportunity to?
Do we want him?
Exactly.
No. Where you guys just sit back there comfortably, all smiles. You're loving all this. You're in a good position. We don't want to. What are you going to do? Start gloating now? Don't do that.
Exactly.
It's too early.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you, Pittsburgh, great town, and very impressed by this hockey team. Very, very impressed. Like, I like the way they play. I do, and they play fast. They play a real. There they are.
Yeah, sorry about that. We were muted before. But
all right, fire away. What do you got?
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to ask you about
Look at how comfortable they are.
about cheating on the face-off
All right,
there.
braggarts.
Go
What's
ahead.
that?
Go ahead.
I said I was going to ask you what you thought of Couture's comments about Crosby cheating on the face-off, but I think you kind of covered it there. That I thought that was a well-known thing that everyone does it. So.
Frustration. And it defers talking about the X's and O's of the games. So I don't know what his motives are.
Yeah, I don't think the refs are going to look at it and go, "Oh, we better pay attention to that a little more the next game." You know, that's not going to cross the linesman his head. So I don't know what he was doing. It's frustration. Yeah.
It's.
I mean, is that part of it? That kind of gamesmanship? Because I think the Penguins kind of did that a little bit in the Capital series, where I thought they were getting away with a lot in the face-off circle, and then they seem to get waved out a little more after that. Like, do the officials pay any attention to that, or it doesn't enter their mind at all?
Oh, the officials, they pay attention to everything. There's a lot of interaction going down at ice level. And I'll tell you, toughest, I think hockey officials, that's the toughest sport to be an official in. I don't even know how they don't get hit more often, either by players or pucks. Like, if you're close, if you're ever at a game down low, it is fast. And there's no out of bounds. There's nowhere to go. And these guys somehow, they have to stay out of the way and make calls at that, at the pace that's going on, extremely difficult. So what you're seeing is frustration and also deferring potential questions. Oh, what do you want to talk about? You guys are getting dominated. Well, no one's going to admit that. They're like, well, these games have been close. We hung in. We need to play better. So you're getting into, pack your bags. We're moving to Clichéville right now. And, he said it. It doesn't have any meaning. It doesn't have any bearing on next game, other than, you know what? He needs to win more faceoffs against Crosby. I mean, that was the game deciding goal. It was an offensive faceoff win, and he set it up right before it too. I mean, the cameras had him. He talked to Letang. It was a set play, executed to perfection, and it gave them a commanding 2-0 lead. Okay. Get out of here. Get out of here. Jeez. I'm not going to be nice yet. Yeah, wave away. Keep it going.
Exactly.
Yeah, keep it going.
Go ahead.
So this question's all about the young players on the Sharks. I think you're talking about some of the changes that Doug Wilson made in between seasons, and I think one thing that I was talking to some of my coworkers who are big Sharks fans was also looking at what the young players from the Sharks from past season to this season. You've seen Hurdle come up, you've seen Wingles take his game to another level. I think Couture finally got that extra gear from past season. So how do you think the young players of the Sharks fit into this? And also kind of going forward, how do you see this team where, you have kind of a core that's getting older, but they've also got some young players coming up too? How do you see that panning out into the future?
It starts, the young guys, it starts with the professionalism of the top guys. It's leadership. It's your core leaders. Thornton, Marleau, Pavelski, Vlasic, those guys, Burns. These guys work out, train so hard. You go look at how many games that these guys play every single season. There's a reason why, knock on wood, but there's a reason why they don't get injured. It's the way they train. And it's also with the training staff. Mike Potenza, the strength and conditioning coach for the Sharks, he's awesome. But these guys, you're reaching success at a very young age. You know, it's something that most people don't really talk about. You're in your early 20s and you're at the peak. It doesn't happen in your world usually. I mean, the odd startup. But in sports, it happens regularly. You know, you're making millions of dollars. If you're in the NHL at 23 and you're making $1 million, that's it. You're the pinnacle. Like you can make a bit more money, but you've reached the pinnacle of what you can do. Now you're just trying to win a championship, right? But when you have that leadership core and you watch those guys work hard and how they take care of each other, take care of themselves from nutrition to sleep, everything, their training. I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was 3 years ago, the Sharks lost out in the playoffs. And I was over at the practice facility. This was like 10 days after they'd lost. There's Joe Thornton working out already. Not hard, but he was maintaining to get ready for his summer training. It was like he took a week off and then that was it. So I'll bundle all those guys. Hurdle, like an example for Hurdle, he had that terrible injury his first year. So the first summer was basically rehab. So he lost a summer of working out. It affected him his sophomore year in the NHL. Then last summer, he got to train. First they missed the playoffs, so now he's got an extra.
6 months,
he's got an extra month right there of training. So you work, he gets the training and all that, puts it in. Well, we see he reaps the benefits this year. He's stronger on the puck. His skating is better. Because of that, he's kind of become an elite power forward in the NHL, and you transfer that through all the young guys. All the young guys coming up, even the guys here, the Barracuda, now that they're here in San Jose, they get to see this. They get to see how these guys prepare and train on a day-to-day basis. And Pete DeBoer's talked about it. He knew these guys were good players. He didn't know the level of professionalism that the Burns, the Thorntons, the Marlows, the Pavelskis, those guys have on a day-to-day basis, and it makes it much easier for a coach. It's a good question.
Do you have any tips for rapid recovery for cross-country trips? Like, say, if we have to visit the Pittsburgh office and then be back here?
Yeah. I don't even know what the players do. I struggle with it, but yeah, they work on it. They've studied it from a sleep standpoint. Yeah. The hardest part is nutrition and sleep, right? And if you're working in that's the hardest part. So we're out. You don't even want to know what it's like. We're a disaster. We're the broadcasters. We have to. We're out. We're like social guys. We go out. If they're sponsors, we're out with them. We're eating and having some beers and all that. But it's different though. Like my lifestyle is, and my wife knows. If you travel, it's not easy, and we travel for long periods. It wears you down. You get as used to it as you can. Is the best way. And I don't know. We travel like different time zones so often during the year, but I also, even when I come back, my lifestyle is different. I work nights. So I'm drinking coffee or tea at 7 o'clock, getting ready for a game. You guys are with caffeinated. So you guys aren't doing that. Your days are, well, maybe. Yeah, I forgot. I'm at Google. Know your crowd, Jamie. Read the room. But so we work nights, and then it takes me a little while to wind down after games. I go home. I typically, even a home game, I won't fall asleep till 1. Like I decompress, because even though it's not out on the ice, like trust me, if I screw up on the broadcast, it's on Twitter. Like I'll be reading about it somewhere and hearing about it. So, and you want to do a good job, and you need energy to have, so the whole day builds up. Then you do the game, and there's a little bit of a progression to decompress, and then, and then you start the process over.
It's amazing to watch the players today in terms of how they focus on all that. I mean, certainly when I played, that was just not even part of it. I remember, talking to players. Gretzky, the year after he won a cup and he got traded to LA in training camp, saying to him, when was the last time you were on skates? And this is now September, for training camp. And he says, when we won the cup, right? And then, he hadn't been on skates all summer. Now that, it doesn't matter what player you are, 2 weeks after this cup, Crosby's going to be back on the ice, or certainly training at a very intense level. And and then the sleep patterns. You talk to some of the guys on the team now, and I know Pavelski, and he just the food, he's drinking a lot of tea. He's got a whole rhythm to sleep patterns that he has to kind of manage, stuff that you didn't even think about. And you just see the physical level that they're at. It's just phenomenal to watch, right?
These guys make more money we had way more stories.
That's
that
the
I
other
can't
thing.
share.
They don't.
We had way more fun.
Exactly.
Non-negotiable. But they're in better shape, and they have better. Their abs look better, and they make more money.
Yeah, absolutely.
They look better on Instagram with their shirt off
They
than we
certainly
do.
do. They certainly do. Yeah. You talk to them, and that exactly. How was a road trip? Did you have a lot of fun? And not the old days. The road trips were the epic stories that and they don't have them anymore. When you talk to them, I mean, it's just amazing to watch the discipline. And
You guys, the internet and the camera phone has changed pro sports in that regard. Yeah. I played with this guy named Jamie McCown when I was in Toronto, and he was an old school guy. He told the trainers, he goes, they give him his equipment to bring home for the summer at the end of the season. He goes, I don't need it. And they didn't believe him. He goes, I don't skate. They didn't believe him. So one year they put a banana in his bag. They came back, it was this little shriveled up black banana sitting there right in the bag. He had never opened it up. He's like, the bastard, he didn't lie to us. He doesn't skate at all. Yeah. Poor banana. Hey? If you're going to be a banana, that's a bad banana to be right there.
Go ahead.
I was just going to ask about Joel Ward. He's become one of my favorite players out there, and I didn't really know him before he came to the Sharks. But what do you think he's really brought to the club? And
everything. Yeah. He's just, first of all, and this is where this, I know Pittsburgh's playing great and everything, but this Sharks team, they're a resilient, persistent bunch. I'm curious to see how they try and climb out of this thing, and maybe they can't. But if there's a group in this league that can, if there's a team that can overcome this and beat the Penguins, it's the San Jose Sharks. They have the goaltending, but they have all these guys. Their history, their bios, who they are is about resiliency and perseverance. And I don't overuse those words because they're really, really important. But Joel Ward, he went and played 4 years junior in Canada. And then most players, you go pro. It's to some level, right? You're playing maybe in the minors, but you're playing pro. He then he didn't go pro, he went and played 4 years Canadian college hockey, which is, the next step. You're preparing for adult hockey. I think he's the only player in the NHL right now that played Canadian college hockey. U.S. college hockey is still a pipeline, to the NHL, but Canadian college is guys that have played juniors, and it's hockey's graveyard. You're going to finish your education, and it's your fraternity. It's like an athletic fraternity. You play hockey, you're staying in shape, you love the sport, keeps you busy, helps you keep your schedule, all of that. And they try and win the championships up there, and it's awesome, it's great. He played 4 years there, then he went and played in the minors, and then he made his way to the NHL, and here he is. He said, I don't have any pressure, I have nothing to lose. He's beating the odds. You know what he did last week? I got an email, and he had a pizza day at SAP Center for all the employees. Just last Friday, I think it was. Just to send an appreciation to everybody. And I'm like, that's the type of guy he is. We went back this year when we were back in Washington. You should see the people that, it was a love fest, but the people behind the scenes, the janitors, the guy that drives the Zamboni, he treats everyone the same with respect. And he works hard, straight line guy. You talk about just a great guy on and off the ice. He's a great player, and he's a better person. So, the Sharks have a lot of those guys. That's where it's tough seeing them in this hole right now. But I'm excited to see how they can get out of it. Because I can tell you right now, if Joel Ward was sitting here, he wouldn't really be able to say anything, tactically and all that. But he's like, no, we're planning on winning this series. We're not going down. We're not this thing isn't over yet. And that's what he believes. That's the type of person. A guy who's and the same thing with Joe Pavelski. He's a great person. Here's a guy that's 7th round draft pick, 204 guys were drafted before him. 29 other teams would love that guy on their team. He's a captain. He's huge. He's not going away. He's not packing his bag saying we can't do this. So it's guys like that now that have to lead the charge come Saturday.
So outside of the current season, which team do you think has all the right young elements to become the one team to beat in the next, let's say, 4 or 5 years?
It's a tough question because there's so much parity in the league. Coming into this year's playoffs, the Western Conference, I thought 7 of the 8 teams could potentially win the Stanley Cup. I didn't think Minnesota was good enough. That was the only team. So, you look, and it's some teams, the way they restack. I mean, you look at an Edmonton, they're loaded with young players and they have McDavid, but they're going to have to make some changes because their culture is not winning. Their culture is losing. Their culture is getting frustrated. That's what it was. And it was a frustrating year. I think with the Todd McClellan and his staff there, they made some inroads, but I'm curious to see what they do this summer if they keep all those young players. Because some of them, they don't know anything other than losing. And it's like maybe they should move out and bring in maybe they should build it around McDavid. So he's a generational player. Like Edmonton, even Calgary's got some good young players.
I think Dallas, with Sagan and Ben, those are young guys. Who are just
Phoenix is doing some good moves that could take a few years. But it's tough to say because some of these guys don't all develop the same. Like the thing about the NHL is it's the best hockey league in the world for a reason. You're coached by the best. You're playing against the best every single night. And if you have a weakness, at the end of my career, I got sent back to the minors, and I finished my career in the Chicago Wolves. There were players on that team, and we won a championship. And I went to the coaching staff 2-3 weeks before the playoffs. I said, just make me a third-line center. That's what I did in the NHL. I'm good at it. I'll kill penalties. I'll be good on faceoffs. I'll drive some of the top players in the other team crazy. Don't put me on a top line. Like, we had other guys who were more skilled, but they'd ask me, like, why'd you make it and why haven't I? And I'm like, because when you're in the NHL, if you have a weakness, it gets personified. Because we talk about every player before every game. Whatever it is, if it's speed, you will get exposed. If you don't like the physical play, you will get exposed. If you don't make good backhand passes, you will get exposed because guys will know and they will force you on your backhand all the time. So we know all the strengths and that's what makes the great players so amazing because they don't have many weaknesses. You can't exploit them. And you got to play against those guys every single night. So who moving forward? We just kind of touched on a few of those teams. The Islanders have some good. And the other thing you got to remember, and this is kind of it's good. It's parity, but it's the salary cap. So what you can have, like Tampa Bay is in trouble. Like they're stockpiled right now with young talent, but they've got a whole bunch of guys in contract situations. I don't think they're going to be able to keep everybody. So you can be great now and have a nice little run, and then if you have any semblance of success and contracts are coming up, good luck signing everybody. So, but I think it's good for the sport because I don't think we can predict 3, 4, 5 years down the road.
Well, look, thank everyone for coming. Jamie, thank you in particular for coming. I think that's been a great